Retail stores remain open and traffic moves through city centers. Economic reports focus on resilience, yet a specific tension exists between those headlines and the daily experience of the average household. Rents are rising, while the purchasing power of a standard paycheck continues to contract. These are not imagined pressures. They are the measurable results of 6 specific, documented failures in the current economic structure. Public expectations of a financial crisis are often defined by the sudden, deafening collapse of 2008. Today, however, the indicators of instability are quieter and more distributed. We are currently navigating 6 specific, interconnected failure points that are occurring simultaneously. Because these failures do not produce a singular, headline-grabbing crash, they often avoid the level of scrutiny given to acute disasters. That lack of attention allows the damage to compound. Since 2020, U.S. home prices climbed 45%, while wage gains reached just 2%. Now, a young couple requires 70% of their annual income for a standard down payment, forcing many into high-interest debt for basic living expenses. This shift is driven by embedded inflation. Businesses are no longer adjusting prices based strictly on current supply costs. They are pricing in the expectation of future increases, betting that consumers have become conditioned to absorb the higher totals. This is most visible in 3 specific areas: rising home insurance premiums, which jumped 8% this year, utility costs, which now average $265 a month, and service inflation, where the cost of maintenance and specialized labor continues to climb. Last year, 3 in 10 Americans skipped medical care because of the cost, and 14% of households reported food insecurity. These figures represent a fixed, structural change in how wealth is distributed within the economy. The global trading system was designed to keep consumer prices low through specialization and open movement. Today, however, that entire system is being rapidly dismantled by rising tariffs and the fracturing of long-standing global supply routes. These shifts have direct costs. Tariffs alone have added up to $1,000 to the production cost of every vehicle built in the U.S., while American soybean exports dropped 25% in just 2 years. Historically, one region's economic growth could offset another's decline, but we are currently seeing a synchronized global slowdown. The primary engines of international growth are cooling at the same time. At the center of this is the debt load. The United States national debt has surpassed $39 trillion, reaching 100% of the total GDP, a ratio not seen since the end of the Second World War. This scale shows where that revenue actually goes. The federal government now spends $1 trillion annually just on interest payments. That single expense is now larger than the budgets for national defense, Medicare, and Medicaid combined. During the 2008 crisis and the 2020 pandemic, the government utilized massive debt to fund an economic rescue. However, with the debt-to-GDP ratio already at its current peak, the capacity for another round of large-scale stimulus has been significantly reduced. If another major shock hits the system, the fiscal tools used in previous decades are likely to be unavailable. There is very little runway left to catch a falling economy. These 6 vectors, the debt load, stagnant wages, permanent price levels, fractured trade, global slowdowns, and a strained safety net, are all converging. Many economists now point towards the gradual scenario. This is not a sudden collapse, but a decades-long compression where real income per person slowly erodes, and financial options for the next generation are quietly removed. Japan serves as the blueprint for this scenario. They avoided a catastrophic crash, but their economy grew only 10% over the course of 20 years. It was a generation defined by stagnation rather than a crisis. Because this erosion happens in small increments over years rather than days, it lacks a singular event to trigger a broad public response. On any given day, the surface appears stable, while the structural capacity for growth is slowly lost. Recognizing the long-term trajectory of these 6 factors is the first requirement for navigating this environment. Understanding the shift from a sudden crash to a gradual compression is what allows for a clear view of the road ahead.